You've been lied to. They told you women are supposed to be gentle, nurturing, and selfless. They said love is pure and devotion is sacred. But what if I told you Nietzsche saw through that illusion over a century ago? What if the truth about women isn't just uncomfortable, it's actually dangerous to the fragile ego of the modern man? Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll either hate me, or you'll finally understand why most men can't handle what Nietzsche really said. And trust me, you won't see women the same way again. For most of your life, you've been sold fairy tales. Since you could understand words, you've been fed myths like the idea that the right woman will complete you, that her love will heal your wounds, and that she's morally pure and kinder than you are. Nietzsche called this the greatest deception men inflict on themselves. Not because women are evil, but because men are too scared to face the raw, unflinching truth. What you call love is often just need dressed up as virtue. You don't adore her. What you really adore is what she represents: validation, purpose, and escape from your own feelings of inadequacy. And deep down, she knows it. Nietzsche didn't hate women. He hated the lies men told about them. The lies that turned women into either angels or monsters, but never real human beings. Think about it for a second. Why do men crumble when a woman leaves? Why does her rejection feel like a verdict on your worth? It's because you handed her the gavel. You made her your judge, your savior, your mirror. When she walks away, the illusion shatters, and you're left staring at the cracks in your own psyche. Nature warned us. When you gaze long into the abyss also gazes into you. But modern men? They'd rather gaze at their own reflection in a woman's eyes than confront the abyss inside themselves. Here's the brutal truth you've been avoiding. Women are not your redemption. They're not your therapists, your moral compass, or your cosmic reward for being nice. They're players in a game older than civilization itself, a game of power, survival, and calculated influence. While men were busy building empires, women mastered something far more subtle: the empire of emotional leverage. Not because women are manipulative by nature, but because history gave them no other choice. No swords, just silence. No authority, just persuasion. And modern men? They're still blind to it, because admitting it would force them to admit they've been the ones getting played. You say you love her, but what you really love is the way she makes you feel seen, chosen, validated. Enough with the fantasies. That's not love. That's addiction. And like any addict, you'll rationalize, bargain, and debase yourself just to keep the high. Nietzsche saw this centuries ago. The demand to be loved? It's the greatest arrogant presumption a man can make. Yet men still kneel at the altar of female approval, begging for scraps of affection, calling it devotion. But here's the question no one wants to ask. What if she's not your salvation? What if she's your test? A test that most men fail because they'd rather worship than see. Let's shatter another illusion, the myth of female innocence. That wide-eyed gaze, that gentle touch, the way she seems to dissolve into vulnerability. You call it purity. Nietzsche called it power. While men are flexing muscles and wealth, women perfected the art of strategic surrender. They don't conquer, they invite conquest. And in doing so, they dictate the terms. Think about it. Who really controls intimacy? Who sets the pace of commitment? Who holds the power to devastate you with a single cold glance? You call her emotional. Nature would call her a tactician of the heart. And this is where modern men implode. They mistake a woman's adaptability for weakness. They see her empathy and assume it's submission. Big mistake. Empathy isn't weakness. Empathy is a radar. It tells her exactly what you crave, what you fear, and what strings to pull. While you're busy protecting her, she's reading you like a blueprint. Nietzsche warned us. In revenge and in love, a woman is more barbaric than a man. But this isn't about revenge. It's about realism. The moment you realize her tenderness isn't weakness, it's weaponized. Understanding is the moment you stop being a pawn in a game you didn't even know you were playing. Now, here's the hardest pill to swallow. You are never in control. Not when you paid for dinners. Not when you played the provider. Not even when she whispered, "I need you." Because need isn't surrender. It's negotiation. And men have been negotiating with their own delusions. The delusion that her tears mean she's broken? They don't. They mean she's communicating. The delusion that her submission means you've won? It doesn't. It means she's choosing. Nietzsche put it bluntly. Everything about women has one solution: pregnancy. But strip away the shock value, and you'll see his real point. Biology is strategy. Men who ignore this will keep losing not to women, but to their own blindness. So where does that leave you? At a crossroads. You can keep clinging to the fairy tale, pretending women are either angels or demons. Or you can do what nature demanded, see clearly. Not to resent women, but to respect the game. Because the game won't change, but you still can. Let's cut deeper. You've been taught that vulnerability is strength, that opening your heart makes you noble. Nietzsche would laugh at this modern weakness. Real strength? Seeing the game for what it is and choosing to play consciously. Women don't respect vulnerability. They respect controlled vulnerability. The man who shares just enough to create intimacy, but never enough to lose power. That's the brutal truth. Modern psychology confirms, but dares not say aloud. When a woman tests you with silence, jealousy, or withdrawal, she's not being cruel. She's being evolutionary. These are the same tests women have used for millennia to separate the strong from the weak. The man who chases after her when she pulls away, he fails. The man who remains unmoved, he passes. Nietzsche understood this primal dance when he wrote, "The woman's whole nature is a solution to the problem of how to take the weak position in appearance while actually being strong." Modern men collapse under these tests because they've been brainwashed by romance novels and Disney endings. They think persistence equals devotion. It doesn't. It equals neediness. And neediness? It's the ultimate repellent. Watch what happens when a man truly internalizes this. He stops fearing a woman's moods. He stops interpreting her behavior as judgment of his worth. That's when the power dynamic flips, not through domination, but through self-containment. Here's what Nietzsche really meant about women. They're the ultimate reality check. When a man makes a woman his purpose, he's already lost. But when he makes self-mastery his purpose, that's when he becomes undeniable. Not because he's learned tricks or manipulation, but because he's finally understood the oldest truth of all. The only love worth having is the love given freely to a man who doesn't need it to feel complete. The modern dating landscape is a minefield of unspoken power dynamics most men fail to recognize. Nietzsche saw this coming, the way civilization would soften men while sharpening women's instinctual edge. While men were busy building comfortable lives, women maintained their ancient survival skills, reading micro-expressions, detecting neediness, sensing power shifts with a single glance. This isn't conspiracy. It's evolutionary biology refined through centuries of necessity. What they don't teach you is that every romantic interaction contains a hidden negotiation. When she asks, "What are you thinking?" she's not just making conversation. She's probing for emotional leverage. When she withdraws affection after an argument, she's not being petty. She's demonstrating the ultimate female, power-selective access. Nietzsche grasped this when he observed that women understand the value of scarcity better than any economist. Their commodity? Attention. The price? Your autonomy. The painful irony? Most men willingly pay this price while calling it love. They mistake obsession for passion, attachment for devotion. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Real attraction cannot coexist with dependency. The moment a man makes a woman his emotional center is the moment he becomes predictable. And predictability, that's the death of desire. This is why Nietzsche warned that the man of knowledge must be able not only to love his enemies, but also to hate his friends. Because true power lies in emotional sovereignty. Modern psychology skirts around this. Truth with platitudes about healthy attachment, but nature cuts deeper. All attachment is vulnerability. The question isn't whether to connect, it's whether you can connect without losing yourself. Most men fail this test spectacularly. They either become domineering at transparent overcompensation or supplicating an admission of weakness. The rare man who finds the balance. He becomes magnetic, not because he plays games, but because he's genuinely indifferent to the outcome. Here's what Nietzsche really meant about relationships. They aren't about equality. Women don't want men who mirror their emotional patterns. They crave men who stand firm in their masculine essence while respecting their feminine nature. This isn't about dominance. It's about polarity. The electric tension between opposites that makes passion possible. Consider the modern epidemic of passionless relationships. Why do so many couples settle into lukewarm coexistence? Because they've eliminated all tension, all mystery, all the dance of opposites in the name of comfort. Nietzsche warned about this when he wrote of the last men, those who prioritize safety over vitality. The feminine doesn't respond to safety. It responds to strength that doesn't threaten, confidence that doesn't dominate, presence that doesn't smother. This is the razor's edge. Few men learn to walk it. Here's what your father never taught you. A woman's respect must be earned anew every day. Not through grand gestures, but through quiet consistency. Not through words, but through being. The man who understands this stops trying to prove himself and simply becomes undeniable. He realizes that female desire isn't triggered by what he does for her, but by who he is without her. This is Nietzsche's will to power applied to relationships. Not power over others, but power over oneself. A tragedy of modern romance? Most men seek completion where they should seek complementarity. They want a woman to fill their voids rather than match their wholeness. This inversion guarantees dysfunction. Nietzsche saw this coming when he observed that it is not a lack of love, but a lack of friendship that makes unhappy marriages. But friendship here doesn't mean platonic comfort. It means mutual respect between two self-contained individuals who choose each other daily, not out of need, but out of desire. Let me reveal the uncomfortable truth about so-called nice guys. They're not nice. They're calculating. Nietzsche saw through their martyrdom complex centuries before psychology put a name to it. These men don't give selflessly. They give transactionally, secretly keeping score while pretending to be noble. The woman always senses this hidden contract. That's why genuine kindness attracts, while covert contracts repel. The modern dating crisis stems from men abandoning true masculinity while failing to understand authentic femininity. We've created generations of men who are either aggressive and domineering, misunderstanding strength as force, passive and apologetic, misunderstanding kindness as weakness, manipulative and resentful, the worst combination of both. Nietzsche's solution? Become the man who transcends these false dichotomies. The man who can be both gentle and uncheckable, both compassionate and boundaried. This isn't about changing who you are. It's about becoming who you're capable of being. Women don't want perfect men. They want real men, flawed but authentic, strong but evolving. The tragedy? Most men are so terrified of rejection, they never show their genuine selves. They either perform alpha posturing or beta supplication, both equally inauthentic. Nietzsche called this living beneath oneself, the greatest sin against one's potential. Here's what no one tells you. A woman's ultimate test isn't of your success or status. It's of your congruence. Does your outer life match your inner reality? Do your words align with your actions? This congruence, or lack thereof, determines more about your romantic success than any pickup technique ever could. Women have a sixth sense for incongruence, which is why faking it till you make it fails in the long term. The path forward isn't about learning tricks to manipulate women. It's about developing the discipline to master yourself. Not to become perfect, but to become integrated. This is what Nietzsche meant by become who you are. Not some polished persona, but your fullest, most authentic expression. Ironically, this is also what makes a man irresistibly attractive. Not because he's trying to be, but because he's stopped trying to be anything other than himself.